views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Let me be your lighthouse so I can show you the way. Let me be your shining light, I'll keep you from drifting away. I'm the one that makes you try when...
Hello, welcome back to my show. This is Patty Hunter of Patty's Page. Today's special and wonderful guest, that is a friend of mine, of course, is Frank Pavone, and he is a pro-life leader and the National Directors of Priests for Life. That's a whole mouthful, kid. A whole mouthful.
Indeed, and it's a joy to do it all, and the movement continues to grow.
How long have you been with Priests for Life, sir?
30 years.
Oh my goodness. This year?
Yes. 30 years this year.
A lot has happened since then, eh?
Oh my goodness. A lot has happened in the movement, and a lot of good steps forward with the reversal of Roe versus Wade. I don't remember if we've even chatted since that happened, but
No.
that's been a big victory.
I just want to know how you reacted when you heard.
I was actually in the midst of a broadcast like we're doing now when the news was announced, because we knew that some decisions were coming out that day from the court. We didn't know it would be the Dobbs decision, but so we were broadcasting, and I just started reading the holding of the decision out loud, and people were just
Mazel tov.
going crazy. Yeah. Oh my goodness, they were going crazy. So yeah, and I thought right away of all the people that we've worked with over all these decades. Many of whom have gone home to the Lord since then, and with gratitude for their fidelity and their faith, not only their fidelity, but God's faithfulness to his promises. And also gratitude for our American system of government that allows us to correct errors like this,
Yeah.
and to do so in a relatively peaceful way. But it's a big change. And I was just overjoyed. Were so many people.
A lot of states have joined up with the pro-life way of thinking. I'm happy about that. But we're still not finished with our work, are we?
That's right. Well, really what this victory does is it sets our work on a whole new playing field. We've got to work even harder now, because what it did basically was just to take away a big obstacle in the road. It didn't make abortion illegal. It didn't give protection to the babies, but it said we could. So it brought us a step closer to that, because it said we could protect them, as so many people and so many states want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Court is no longer going to stand in their way. That's a big thing. That's a big step forward. But it works only if we keep doing the work.
And we keep on doing
it. People can't think that, oh, well, now our work is done. No, the court basically is saying to us, go ahead and do your work. And that's where, because we actually have to bring about that protection for these babies that is still lacking.
So there's an all-out war on our unborn newborns. What is
There
that?
sure is. There sure is. And it's taking shape through the Democrat politicians, the current administration, the Biden administration is conducting this all-out war. When Roe versus Wade was reversed, they started putting all sorts of things into place whereby they said we have to pass a law to make abortion without limits. They started working in the different states, like in Michigan, putting abortion into the Constitution. There's efforts that now like that underway in Ohio and in other places. And even here in Florida in the 2024 election, they want to put an abortion amendment into the Constitution. So it's
Again,
an all-out war. And and the presidential administration, they're doing things like setting up a national abortion hotline. It's like, who does that? This why do they keep pushing abortion in every and any way that they can? It's
Satan
yeah, it is satanic. Yeah, it
and
is.
sickness.
Yeah,
There's no logic to it. None whatsoever, killing our own people. Our own people. Our
that's right.
babies. As
Our
well
own.
as suicide and euthanasia goes
Yep.
up the ladder.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah,
What's such a death sense culture?
it's a death culture. Yes, it's a complete loss of the sense of the value of life, and that comes from a loss of the sense of God. If you forget God, you no longer appreciate what He created, and that's the dynamic that we see underway here. You forget God, you can't understand what He created, you can't understand that the baby is a baby, and maybe that's I've been saying lately in regard to all this transgender stuff. Maybe today we can't say a man is a man or a woman is a woman, because for 50 years we've been saying a baby's not a baby. It's the same denial of creation, denial.
Oh,
Yeah, right. It makes sense, right? I mean, that's when Roe v. Wade said, we're not sure if this is a human life. Well, then that was the big lie right there. It says,
right there.
of course we know that that's a human life. But they said, oh, well, you can choose if you want to have this baby, then the baby's protected. But if you don't want the baby, then it can be killed. It's like, since when did we get to redefine reality like that? But
When did all this start, dear?
well, it goes back to
Or-
a number of court decisions there in the 60s and 70s where we started to take our freedom and disconnect it from truth. So we said, we don't have to have these commandments, the commandments in the Bible, reading and prayer, three key things.
Mhm.
Commandments, Bibles, and prayer taken out of our schools. So they started aiming for the children, and knowing that if you don't form children in these moral and religious truths, then you can manipulate them to believe anything. And that generation, of course, now has grown up and are in leadership positions, and now we're in chaos. We're in chaos because freedom divorced from truth leads back to tyranny. That's the principle that people need to understand. And that's how we got where we are now, because our founders saw this danger.
Mhm.
And we're giving you a constitution that gives you a lot of freedom. We're giving you a mechanism to govern yourselves. But then they also cautioned that you can't govern yourself if you forget the difference between right and wrong. And that to keep you from forgetting the difference between right and wrong, you have to be rooted in religion and morality. That's why the founders said that we have to be rooted in religion and morality in order for our country to work. Otherwise, we're governing ourselves without an anchor, without a map.
This Darwin guy. Remember Darwin? I think it started from there, or did it start before that?
Well, that was a big turning point too, because that Darwinist, way of thinking takes God out of the equation of human life. Like saying before, if you forget God, you can't understand the creation. And if you think just of human life in that superficial way, rather than being in the image and likeness of God, that's I think it's a whole combination of things at different points in history.
Right.
When you see the cumulative effect of these different philosophies, these different court decisions, these different really little mini revolutions.
Right.
It all combines to create a lot of moral chaos, which is what we're in right now.
They're trying to destroy the human race one way or another.
Yes. You know, I remind people the devil hates God, but cannot destroy God. So he does the next best thing, destroys humanity, because human beings are made in the image of God. So he says, oh, well, yeah, I can't kill God, but I could kill humans. And so for him, that's like, okay, that's the next best thing. And
Getting back at God.
that's why it's, yeah, getting back at God. So that's why, you know, while we don't say that each and every person who does evil is, you know, it's not that they're worshiping the devil or anything. You know, some people, especially when it comes to abortion, you know, they're sincerely confused. They're in despair. You know, we have nothing but compassion for these moms. We're trying to help them every day. And we help those that have had abortions too to find forgiveness. But at its root, what's happening here is satanic, because the devil hates God, therefore hates humanity, and he'll try to influence anyone and everyone he can, including the politicians, to just have this, like you said, it's an all-out war. It's warfare against children.
Sad. Since Roe versus Wade has been reversed,
Yes.
each state has their own, making up their own mind whether they are pro-life or not.
Yes. The people.
We, the people.
Here's the interesting thing. There's always been this battle in the states, right? The people the people elect their lawmakers. We always advocate, you know, elect pro-life lawmakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then the lawmakers debate on, you know, what kind of law can we pass, and then if the lawmakers and the governor agree, then they can sign these bills into law. Okay, so the states have always been doing this, and some states have been doing it in a pro-abortion direction, others in a pro-life direction. But if they did it in a pro-life direction, the court would step in and strike down the law, and that was the problem again with this Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Now that that's out of the way, when the people and their elected representatives, their legislators and their governors decide that they want it one way or the other, okay, either they're going to have unlimited abortion, you know, like New York and California, for example, and various other places, or they're going to have protection of the unborn, Alabama, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, and other states, then the court's not going to stand in their way anymore. So but the process is in the hands of the people, because the people have to elect and lobby those lawmakers. And if they don't like the kind of laws they're making, they vote them out of office. So now we have more power over abortion policy than we did before. But the fact that it's in the hands of the people and their elected representatives means that it's elected representatives at every level of government. So, of course, we have 50 states, and each of the states is going to make its own policy on abortion. But the Congress can also make policy on abortion, and they have the duty to do so. And that is going to solve some of these problems where we have states like New York, Michigan, California, and others, New Jersey, Colorado, that have unlimited abortion. If the Congress acts and says you can't abort babies in the 7th, 8th, and 9th month of pregnancy, and most Americans, of course, would agree that you can't or that you shouldn't, then they'll limit even those very, very blue states, those very, very pro-abortion states, at that, if Congress steps up and does that, while at the same time it wouldn't change the states that want to protect the babies completely.
Also, I've noticed that people were rioting or whatever when Roe versus Wade came to be.
Yes, they were, you know, and you know what I was saying when that was happening? I said they're like spoiled children, throwing a temper tantrum. And the reason I use that analogy is it's not just to kind of make fun of them. No, it's because when you think of what they had for 50 years, the court gave them their victory on a silver platter. They said there's a constitutional right to abortion. One court says that, and it sinks into the mindset of the American, first of all, the American court system. It sinks into the mindset of the legislative assemblies on the federal and state level. Lawmakers understand, no, we can't ban abortion because it's a constitutional right. And then it even sinks into the minds of people on the popular level where, even when somebody starts talking about abortion, someone tries to cut off conversation by saying, oh, but it's a constitutional right. We can say all these different things about the baby. We can say, look, the baby can feel pain. The baby is moving. The baby's sucking his thumb. And they say, oh, no, it doesn't matter. Look at the ultrasound. Look at the pictures. Oh, no, it's a constitutional right to have an abortion. So it shuts down discussion, right? So now, what does that mean? That means 50 years, the other side, the pro-abortion people, didn't have to make a case as to why abortion is good. They didn't have to argue it on its merits. First of all, it has no merits. They have no argument. But secondly, even if they wanted to try, they don't have to, because because this is a constitutional right. Like the end of discussion, right?
Lies.
Now the court has taken that away. And so where are they left? Well, they're left with, okay,
We can't explain it.
I guess I have to explain it. I guess I have to make a case that it's right. And so this is why what they're doing now, as you know, is they're trying to put this fake right to abortion back into the Constitution, but not on the federal level, because they can't anymore, but on the state level. So they're trying to put it in the state constitutions, but it's the same lie as Roe v. Wade, and it has the same lack of basis as Roe v. Wade had. The court said there's no basis in American history, there's no basis in the Constitution for saying there's a right to abortion.
Right. And you know something? They're fighting with tooth and nail against the pro-lifers. They're doing their best to try to destroy us.
Well, you saw
spiritually.
Isn't that right? Yeah. Well, they when they took that temper tantrum,
Mm-hmm.
they were yelling and screaming outside the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
They went to the homes of the justices, right? And they even threatened them, and one guy was about to kill one of them. Then they were attacking the pregnancy centers, right? They did vandalism. I was with a lot of these pregnancy center directors recently at a big conference, the Heartbeat International Conference, which brings them together every year from around the country and around the world. And they were talking about how, they had to increase security. Many of them had to deal with these attacks, and they had to do, expensive repairs or rebuilding. And it's like, what's wrong with these people? And they attack churches too.
Like mobs, mindless mobs.
Yes.
No logic at all.
No.
Like animals. And what we're human. We're not animals. Why can't people think that way?
Right. No, they've lost their own humanity. It's crazy, right? It's just.
So we're going to turn the page now.
All right. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about transgendering and why now it's happening so much.
It's so much. It's like it exploded all of a sudden, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all of a sudden, it's everywhere in the headlines, every level of society, the corporations, the sports arenas and teams. What's going on here is that we have a segment of our society that is just Marxist. They're looking for power.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do that by one of the key elements of turning a country into a Marxist country is to divide the parents from their children.
Divide and conquer.
Divide, right. They've got to, because the biggest threat to a takeover of left-wing elites is the family and the church. Those are the biggest threats. And that the faith, which tells us that we are not animals, that we are sons and daughters of God, the faith that tells us it's always wrong to kill an innocent person, and you got the most defenseless people, the babies. That faith is passed down to these children in the families. They started with trying to get this, like you were pointing out before, this started a long time ago. When prayer and Bible reading and commandments were taken out of the schools, now they're starting to start. That was the first step. Let's separate the children from the parents. Let's separate the children from any kind of lesson in school that they might get at home. Yes, and then now it's so blatant, and it's like we're going to make the kids confused about something as basic as their own gender, their own sexuality, and we're going to give them the idea that they can do whatever they want in that regard without their parents' consent.
Permission. Okay.
And what does this do? Well, this puts the children then under the control of these elite, powerful people who have their hands on the levers of government, of funding, of public education, of media, of social media,
Mm.
healthcare industry, academia, and even some churches that have gone totally wacky because they forgot that the Bible says God made them male and female. The Bible talks about two genders. That's it. And that's a creation of God. So no, it's an effort to divide and destroy families so that they can control the children, so that they can control the whole society. I don't think they care so much about gender.
No.
These radical, now we're talking here.
Sterilizing the community, the
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah, it's right. It's not that they're concerned about sexuality or gender. I don't think they could care less about it. But they're using that as the tool. They're using that as a battering ram to make confused so that they can just step in and say, okay, well, we're going to take over in the midst of all this confusion. I think that's what's going on.
If this isn't stopped, what will happen to us?
Well, we won't be able to have we still have time to fix this, then to change this. We still can turn this around. But if it's not turned around, society just disintegrates. And when there's so much chaos, and we already see it with, you look at some of these cities that are run by these left-wing lunatics. I mean, when they get their hands on their levers of power, look what happens. Cities descend into chaos, riots, and they call them peaceful protests. Riots occur. People no longer feel safe on the streets because criminals are not dealt with. President.
Defund police.
What's that?
Defunding police.
Defunding police, and then not only not throwing the criminals out of the country like President Trump did during his administration, got thousands and thousands of these radical, violent gangs. He got the country, and which means he got them away from our children and away from our families. But then not under the current regime. They just let them stay. Not only do they let them stay, they invite them in from around the world by opening up the southern border. And then they pretend it's secure. I mean, these people are such liars. Oh, yeah, we have a secure border. No, we don't. We don't have any border. So the point is that, well, you ask, well, what happens if we don't turn this around? Society, law and order, peaceful coexistence disintegrates, and then the door is open for these elites, again, in powers of government, positions of government power, to step in and impose more control on the people, because it's a freedom that leads back to tyranny. You let people do whatever they want, and then it gets chaotic, and then they have an opening to say, okay, well, now we're going to step in and control things again. And now you have tyranny.
Communism.
Freedom can flourish only if there's virtue. That's the lesson.
The Lord himself. I know the Lord made us, and he allowed us to have leaders. But we gotta, how do we stand up against the leaders?
We've got to, this is where the bottom line is, we've got to vote these people out of office, and people have to get involved more than ever before, starting on the local level. We've got to take back the levers of government, because the levers of government, the way that they were put in place by the founders, give us freedom. So we say we need to take over, but we need to take over in a constitutional way. And that's why we have to secure our elections. And I believe our elections are more secure than they were a few years ago. I mean, there's still problems, and there's still cheating.
Yeah.
There's always going to be cheating, but we have to overwhelm. You can only cheat to a certain extent. We have to overwhelm whatever cheating there's going to be with greater numbers of good votes. And so we got to get people involved, starting on a local level, take over the institutions of government, get these people out of office who are imposing this radical garbage on our children.
So how can we have peace for life?
Well, Priest for Life is doing a lot of different things around the country, and if people are interested to connect with us, there's a few ways. We have our main website, endabortion.us, and on there you're familiar with the fact that we have many different works, many different ministries, healing after abortion, political involvement, like
Healing after abortion, yes.
yes. Education of people, helping the pastors, helping the churches. We have so many things going on. And at endabortion.us, if people just spend a few minutes to go there, they'll see what areas they're most interested in. They can sign up for our action alerts, because action alerts enable people to know, well, what do I have to do today? Is there a phone call I need to make to my legislators, or is there some other action I need to take, or is there a boycott I need to take part in? So different kinds of action. And then, they can watch our programs. So we have daily programs. So we're talking about the kind of things that we're talking about now. And endabortion.tv is the broadcast channel. And
Is that a podcast?
Yes, it's podcast, it's video programming on different video platforms like YouTube and Vimeo and other places, and also on different social media platforms. So it's kind of a multi-platform broadcast, and people can tune in every day, but they'll find the main links there at endabortion.tv.
And in about a week or so, I'll be interviewing Dr. Avita King.
Oh, my good friend, and she's a colleague at Priest for Life here, as you know.
Isn't she lovely?
I first met her in 1999, and we've been working together ever since.
Dr. Liba, I'm telling you now. So I'm going to say hello to her for you.
Oh, thank you.
It's been great speaking with you again. I must have you on again because there's so many questions that I am so wanting to ask you.
Well, that's right. And rightly so, because it's never been like it is now. This is the time for people to get involved. If they think that, when things get really bad, I'll get really involved. Well, the day has come. It's not a storm that's coming, to America.
It is here.
Here, it has arrived.
The tornadoes going to cell storms, big.
Yeah. If people can't see now that they need to get involved, I don't know what else needs to happen to convince them, because it's absolutely crazy out there. So yes, there's a lot more to talk about. Let's just say as a concluding thought that there is hope. We can turn this around. There's still time to turn it around. There's no more time to wait for the big battle to come. It's here.
It's here, man.
But there is still time to overcome it, and let's become active in speaking up. Everybody's got to speak their mind. Be courageous and say you believe, right? Just like you do, right? And you have this broadcast, and we all have to take the initiatives like you have taken to get the word out there and to speak our mind, whether it's one-on-one or use any kind of platforms God gives us and the social media and everything. And
that's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. Exactly. And then number two, you'll get involved in that government process, starting the political process, starting on the local level. So we can turn it around. There's enough people who love America and love God in order to do this.
Okay. Well, this is Patty Hunter, Patty's Page. Thank you for coming on to my show, Frank Pavone. We love you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. We love you too. We'll pray for each other.
Continue what you're doing, because I'm sure not going to stop.
No, that's right. We will all keep it up. Thanks a lot.
Ciao. Bye-bye, dear.
Bye-bye.
Godspeed, my love, until we meet again. You're always in my heart and every dream. Don't let this time apart give in to all our fears. God will keep us close from up above. So until we meet again, Godspeed, my love. God is with
with us always.